3 shocking true crime stories that haunt your favorite movie theaters forever. The air was electric in the dimly lit theater, a chilling foreboding lurking in the shadows. Everyone was there for the thrill, but unbeknownst to them, the very seats they sat in cradled dark secrets of horror. In one theater, a woman screamed as the credits rolled, a horrifying echo of a grisly scene replayed in her mind. The police discovered her days later, frozen in terror as if trapped in a frame of her own nightmare. What could scare someone so profoundly? It wasn't just the movie, it was what lay beneath. In another theater, whispers filled the hall like ghostly specters. Patrons claimed they felt a strange chill, like icy fingers dancing against their necks. They swear they saw flickering figures in the corners of their vision, but when they turned, nothing was there. One guy even claimed he saw a man in a tuxedo staring blankly at the screen, but he vanished before anyone else could notice. A real-life phantom? Or a product of overactive imaginations? No one could quite figure it out, but the suspense was palpable, tightening around them like a noose, but there was more, much more. Late one night, workers found a hidden room in their theater's basement, behind rusty old doors. It echoed with the patter of unseen footsteps and was littered with old ticket stubs dating back decades. What were they hiding? The locals said it was the tomb of a movie star who had vanished without a trace, trailing only the scent of popcorn and a mystery that would never be solved. How did it connect to the haunting that left so many unsettled? It felt like the story was screaming to be uncovered, a hidden truth waiting to claw its way back to the surface. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the story deepens, so does the mystery. What happens next? Another tragic event? Or perhaps the long-buried secrets will finally come crashing back to life. No one could escape the feeling that the next knock could echo through the walls of the theater once again, a rippling reminder of the past that refuses to stay buried. What were the whispers warning the moviegoers? And could it be that the last showing is yet to come? The theater buzzed with a nervous energy after the last shocking discovery. The staff exchanged uneasy glances, wondering if they had unleashed something beyond their understanding. Dark whispers and fearful rumors coiled around them like mist. What had they awakened by prying behind those old doors? It was Sam, one of the young ushers, who first suggested they investigate the hidden room further. With his flashlight flickering in the gloom, he felt drawn to the mystery that had so many on edge. There has to be more there, he urged. You guys have seen the way people react after watching certain films. This isn't right. What if it's connected? His friends, Jess and Mike, shared hesitant looks. You mean going back in there? Jess asked, her voice trembling. What if it really is haunted? What if we see something? Each heartbeat felt like a countdown as they agreed to descend into the basement, guided by the dim light of their phones. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of dust and old popcorn. Every creak of the aged stairs under their feet sent shivers up their spines. When they reached the hidden room, the door was ajar, as if it were inviting them in. Sam nudged it further open, revealing a chilling sight. Walls lined with yellowed posters, some smeared with something dark and unidentifiable. Framed photographs of glamorous actors long gone stared down at them, but in each picture, a tiny detail caught their eyes, a shadow lurking just behind the stars, lurking like an unspeakable truth yearning to be uncovered. Did you see that? Mike murmured, pointing to the fading photograph of a woman in a sparkling gown standing rigidly beside what appeared to be a large mirror. But the mirror reflected nothing. Let's just check for anything useful, Sam insisted, moving closer. But as he did, the temperature seemed to drop, and a breath of cold swept through the room. Jessica shivered, an instinctive, primal fear igniting the hairs on her arms. Suddenly, the overhead light flickered and broke into darkness. The three gasped, their hands instinctively searching for one another, their voices swallowed by the oppressive silence. "And maybe we should go," Jess stammered. A rustle echoed from a dark corner of the room, freezing their blood in their veins. Then came a whisper, a soft yet distinct murmur that nobody could understand. It sent a shockwave of panic through Sam, who instinctively raised the flashlight, revealing not just the room but something monstrous lurking in the shadows. A tall figure, dressed in a tuxedo, eyes hollow and unblinking, watching them with an intensity that left them paralyzed. Every horror movie they had ever seen flooded back in their minds, but this was no movie. It was all too real, too vivid. The phantom raised a skeletal hand, its finger slowly pointing towards them, and then to the wall of photographs as if warning them. With hearts racing, they stumbled back, desperate to flee from the room that felt alive with peril. But before they could turn, the spindly fingers of the shadow reached out closer. They bolted, the echoes of their terrified footsteps bouncing off the walls, but Sam couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, trapped in a web woven by restless souls. What was this entity? Who had it been in life? And why did it linger in a theater as haunted as its past? As they emerged gasping into the safety of the lobby, they were left breathless not just from fear but from the nagging realization that this was only the beginning. The theater held secrets that had not yet revealed themselves, and the past was very much alive. Outside, a chilling wind swept through the streets, leaving a lingering sense of dread in the air. What horrors awaited them next? The stage was set, and the darkest night was still to come. Would they dare return, or had they unleashed forces best left undisturbed? As they stepped out into the night, the cool air felt surreal against their flushed faces. They gathered in a huddle, hearts racing, breaths mingling in the darkness. Each glance exchanged was a silent question: were they really safe now? Sam's hands trembled as he tried to steady his flashlight against the night, the beam flickering as if to echo his own anxiety. "We can't just leave it like this," Sam said, reluctantly breaking the silence. "What if it's just waiting for us to come back?" Mike scoffed, though it didn't hide his thinly veiled fear. "You want to go back in there? That thing, that ghost, whatever it is, it has no intention of playing nice." Instead of answering, Jess turned to the flickering sign of the theater, an old classic still daring the world to watch its hidden stories. "But what if we uncover something important?" Her voice quivered, not just from fear but from an electric curiosity that seemed almost stronger than her fright. "What if it's trying to tell us something? Or trap us?" Mike shot back, the worry edged in his voice. But even he couldn't deny the pull of the enigmatic. With a heavy thump resonating from inside the theater, Sam's resolve hardened. "We have to go back. We've started this, whatever this is. We have to see it through." Jess and Mike exchanged another look, but as the cold wind howled around them, the tension tightened their stomachs. They couldn't shake the feeling that something was drawing them back. Back they went, their footsteps echoing against the pavement like a countdown to their next decision. Each step brought a mix of dread, heightened by the whispers in the wind that seemed to beckon them along. Pushing through the theater doors again felt unbearable. The once familiar lobby now appeared warped, shadowy figures dancing in the corners of their eyes, murmuring secrets. The air quivered, thick with anticipation and terror. They headed straight for the basement once more, guided by dim lights and creeping curiosity. As they descended, the echoing creaks intensified, a cacophony of ghosts keeping them company. Inside the hidden room, the atmosphere buzzed with unease. Shadows shifted, stretching and folding like black rubber. Sam raised the flashlight, heart hammering, but the darkness felt even heavier this time, oppressive and stifling. The room seemed to pulsate with a heartbeat of its own as he swept the light across the posters. The figures on the walls twisted, blurring at the edges as if they too were caught in the realm between this world and another. "Look!" Jess gasped, her voice barely a whisper, as she pointed with wide eyes. One of the photographs on the wall had changed. Where once there was nothing in that large mirror, now a shape began to stir, a figure cloaked in shadows, moving ever so slightly. The same form they had seen before, but now its outline flickered with an otherworldly energy. Frozen, Sam stumbled backward, mouth agape. Is it looking at us? Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, casting erratic shadows that warped the surroundings into a kaleidoscope of terror. And in that instant, a keening wail erupted from the abyss, crashing against their senses like a tidal wave. "Run!" Mike shouted, but the ghostly figure seemed to stretch its long, spindly fingers towards them again, this time more menacingly. The other images on the walls screamed silently, their faces twisting in horror, begging for release. In the chaos, Sam's flashlight flickered off, plunging them into darkness. He could barely hear Jess's panicked cries as they plunged into escape mode, sprinting back toward the stairs. The air crackled with malevolence, and the shadows chased them like demons, desperate to reclaim what they once had. Bursting back into the lobby, they thought they would be safe, but the echoes of the theater transformed, resonating with long-buried memories of fear and despair, resonating with voices calling out names lost in time. "We need to put an end to this," Jess cried, desperation pooling in her eyes. "We need to know what happened here." But as they turned to confront the darkness again, Sam was struck by a terrifying thought. What if uncovering the truth meant facing something more sinister than they could ever dream? A palpable fear gripped their hearts, and with heavy breaths, they realized they might lose themselves to the past, forever trapped like those they sought to understand. What would they uncover if they ventured deeper? Or would they become the ghosts of a tragic story lost amongst the shadows? As their breaths echoed in the dimly lit lobby, fear pressed against their chests like a vice. Sam struggled to regain his composure. "We need to find out what happened here," he insisted, his voice strained. "But we have to do it smart. We can't just rush in blind." Mike wiped his sweaty palms on his jeans, glancing around as if the shadows might sprout legs and chase them again. "Smart? That thing just showed itself. What's the plan? Tea and cookies?" Jess stepped closer, her determination forging a path through the hazy terror. "No, listen. We know it's connected to something. Someone lost something here, and we can't ignore that. It's like a puzzle we need to solve." With a swift nod, Sam flicked his flashlight back to life, its beam cutting sharply through the darkness, revealing the ornate details of the lobby: dusty velvet seats, cracked plaster, and the warped smile of a painted mural depicting a time long gone. A shiver ran down his spine as he realized they were standing on ground that felt alive, holding secrets just beneath the surface. "All right," Mike relented, swallowing hard. "But we stick together this time. No splitting up." The trio hesitated at the door to the basement, hearts pounding in unison. Sam pushed it open, the creaking hinges sounding like a warning bell. They stepped into the depths once more, the air thickening with each solitary step. Shadows danced wickedly, and every creak seemed more pronounced than before. As they descended, Jess's hand brushed against something cold and smooth, a steel doorknob, different from the others, leading to a small side room they hadn't noticed before. "What's this?" Her voice was barely audible over the whispering darkness. "Looks like it's locked," Mike murmured. His fingers danced over the surface, searching for any sign of give. Sam felt a pull towards the door, an instinct urging him closer. "Wait," he said. "There's something off about it." He knelt, inspecting the edges where the door met the frame. The faintest mark glimmered in the flashlight's beam, a symbol, almost ancient, carved into the wood. Jess leaned over his shoulder, her expression shifting from curiosity to horror. "That's an occult symbol," Sam finished, feeling a chill slice through him. "This place, it might have been a site for something terrible." Mike grimaced. "You know what that means, right? If the ghost is tied to this place, it might draw power from whatever went down here. We could be in way over our heads." Before anyone could respond, the air around them trembled. Instinctively, they stepped back, but it was too late. The door swung open with a deafening crack, revealing a dark space beyond that felt like a pocket of despair. A low, haunting wail rolled through, echoing their unspoken fears. "What is that?" Jess yelled, stumbling away from the noise. "I don't know." Sam shouted back, trapped between curiosity and the primal urge to run. The room inside pulsed with a sinister energy, as if it were alive, and something cloaked in shadows awaited their entry. With resolve hardening in their chests, they stepped forward, one tentative foot after another, the faint light illuminating vague shapes inside old items shrouded in sheets, a tattered curtain swaying softly as if brushed by an invisible hand. Suddenly, a gust of wind rushed past them, extinguishing the flashlight and plunging them into chilling blackness. Panic surged, a tide of raw emotion washing over them as they gasped for breath. "Sam!" Jess cried, her voice trembling. "Don't leave me." Mike's voice broke through the heavy silence, barely above a whisper. What if whatever we find in here isn't ready to be found?" Just then, a silhouette emerged from the depths, facial features indistinguishable but radiating a cold, hollow presence. Sam's mind raced, a sickening realization dawning on him. "We have to go," but before he could finish, the air thickened, cracking around them like electricity, and the shadow lunged. What awaited them in that suffocating darkness? Would they unlock the truth or seal their fates forever? The choice loomed large, and a chilling scream echoed through the labyrinthine shadows, delivering a promise of chaos yet to come. Jess's panic-stricken breath filled the suffocating darkness, creating a rhythm that matched the frantic pounding of Sam's heart. The shadow loomed closer, its presence pressing against them, squeezing the air from their lungs. Sam struggled to regain his footing, desperate to break the spell of dread encasing them. "Mike! Use your phone!" Sam shouted, his voice hoarse with urgency. Mike's hands trembled as he fumbled for his phone, the illuminated screen flickering to life like a reluctant star. A sudden beam of harsh light broke through the darkness, cutting a swath through the thickened air. As the shadow recoiled momentarily, Jess gasped, her eyes wide with terror. The light revealed the contours of the room, a small storage space cluttered with dust-coated relics, old furniture, boxes, and a mirror that looked like it belonged to another time. But it wasn't the room that held their attention, it was the shape, the silhouette taking form. "Who are you?" Sam barely whispered. The figure remained silent, but an energy pulsated from it, a palpable sense of sorrow and anger that filled the room. As if sensing their fear, it glided closer, its mouth opening in a silent scream, echoing the wails that had reverberated through the basement just moments before. "Back up!" Mike yelled, pinning Jess against the wall as he snatched the flashlight from his belt. With a flick, the beam illuminated the figure's face, twisted, desperate, a visage of loss that sent shivers cascading down their spines. "What happened to you?" Jess breathed, her voice a fragile thread in the shadowy chaos. The reflection in the mirror caught Sam's eye. It pulsed with flickers of light, revealing not just the ghostly figure but scenes of anguish, anguished faces, a struggle, and the fire, a destructive blaze consuming everything, taking with it souls tethered to that very spot. No way," Sam stammered, backing away as the truth began to unfurl before him, like an unraveling thread. "This is wrong. This can't be." The shadow seemed to hear him, its form shuddering, the sorrow etched deeper into its being. The air thickened, becoming almost suffocating as it moved again, drawing closer as if pleading for understanding, or perhaps for revenge. "Let us leave," Mike urged, the fear in his voice now laced with a sense of survival. As they turned, a gust surged behind them, forcing them forward. They stumbled into the main room, and the door slammed shut with an earth-shattering bang, echoing through the cold, hollow hallway. "What do we do?" Jess cried, panic snaking into her words. "We face it," Sam said, surprising even himself with his resolve. "We have to know what happened. We can't let this thing remain trapped." The shadow flickered, crackling with energy, a tempest of emotion swept through the air, churning, heavy with unresolved pain. It lunged again, but this time it stopped just short, as if waiting for Sam's next move. "Show us," he said, voice steadying despite the knot in his stomach. "Show us what happened." The room shifted. The shadows twisted, forming images that sprang to life. They saw the past unfold as if stepping into a memory, a group of people huddled together in a desperate attempt to escape. Flames danced above their heads, laughter turned into screams, glimmers of hope twisted into nightmares. Sam just whispered, trembling. "It's too much." Mike stood frozen, eyes wide, jaw clenched as the horror played out before them. "But we have to get out of here. Now." As the scene intensified, dread enveloped them, like an invisible weight pushing down. The figure's eyes bore into Sam's, and the echo of its wail crescendoed, drowning out everything else. And then silence fell, the ghost faded to nothingness, leaving only shadows swirling in the space around them, as if awaiting their next move. "We need to find a way out," Mike urged, his voice trembling. Let us see it. It has to mean something." But as they turned to leave, the door swung open with a sudden violent force, revealing an even darker corridor leading deeper into the unknown. "Where does that go?" Jess asked, her eyes wide, filled with an equal mix of fear and curiosity. "Only one way to find out," Sam replied, the chill of foreboding settling into his bones. With hearts racing, they stepped toward the darkness, knowing every choice could open new horrors or provide a chance for redemption. What awaited them in the shadows ahead? As they crossed the threshold, a whisper echoed back to them, soft yet piercing, "Help me." The haunting plea lingered, urging them deeper into the abyss. What truth would they uncover as they ventured further into the mystery? The darkness enveloped them like a thick fog, each step into the corridor amplifying the sense of impending doom. Sam led the way, flashlight casting frantic beams that barely touched the farthest edges of the space. Echoes of their footsteps bounced off the walls, the sound mingling with the faint memory of that ghostly wail. "Why the hell are we even doing this?" Mike muttered, voice tight with tension. "Because we can't leave it like this," Sam snapped, though his heart hammered in fear. "We owe it to them to know the truth." They moved cautiously, the air cool against their skin, almost like it was alive with anticipation. Every dark shadow felt sentient, a waiting predator hiding just out of sight. Jess shivered as she tried to keep pace, her thoughts spiraling with every flicker of the flashlight. "Did you hear that?" she said suddenly, stopping short. Sam paused, listening intently. Faint whispers floated through the air, incoherent yet pleading, like a chorus of the lost. The sound twisted around them, snaking into their minds with sharp edges. "Yes, I hear it," he finally replied, struggling to keep his composure. "It's not just the wind, it sounds like." Jess's eyes widened, horror dawning on her. "It sounds like the voices from the basement." As if on cue, the temperature dropped. Sam could see his own breath, puffing in clouds of vapor. The corridor stretched endlessly before them, but a low flickering light beckoned from further down, pulling them inexorably closer. "Whatever it is, we have to keep moving," Mike said, voice low. "It might be more than just echoes." Continuing forward, Sam's flashlight flickered sporadically, illuminating rotting walls and debris that crumbled beneath their feet. Just as despair started to set in, they reached a wide, cavernous room at the end of the corridor. Inside, a massive tapestry hung, battered yet strangely inviting, its threads twisted together in a haunting portrayal of tragedy. In the center, a circle of salt shimmered under the wavering light from an old chandelier hanging precariously overhead. "What the hell is this place?" Jess breathed, stepping inside with trepidation. "Some kind of ritual space?" Mike guessed, eyes darting around. As they approached the tapestry, images began to shift and change, faces emerged, expressing anguish and rage, much like the shadow they had seen before. Suddenly, the air crackled around them, tightening like a vice grip. "Get back!" Sam shouted, yanking Jess back as the tapestry shimmered with life, the figures twisting and turning as if trying to break free from the woven confines. The voices grew louder, overlapping until they formed a tragic symphony. Each note struck deep in Sam's heart, the pain palpable, tears collecting at the corners of his eyes. "What do you want?" he shouted into the chaos, his voice trembling. Just then, a sharp breath echoed an answer whispered in the wind. "Find us." "Help find who?" Jess asked, a tremor in her voice. "We don't know what to do." The shadow flitted closer, glowing now, revealing fractured pieces of its past woven into the very air they breathed. Sam felt the weight of all their eyes upon him, pleading with him to understand their plight. Suddenly, the figures from the tapestry lunged forward, the room spinning as tendrils of darkness reached for them, trying to drag them into an abyss of despair. "No!" Mike yelled, struggling against the pull. "We've got to break free." "We can't with every ounce of courage," Sam shouted. "We will help you. Just show us what you need." The swirling shadows hesitated, their advance stalling. A moment of silence hung in the air, thick with anticipation. Then, in desperate unison, the shadows and the whispers responded, "Remember the fire." Before Sam could process their words, the ground beneath them quaked, and the tapestry split, revealing a hidden corridor lined with flickering flames. "Do we really want to go there?" Mike panted, voice full of doubt as the roaring fire illuminated the depth of their choice. "It's the only way," Jess exclaimed, eyes wide with determination. "We need to find out what happened." With no time to waste, they plunged into the blazing corridor. Heart pounding, Sam wondered whether the truth would save them or lead to their undoing. What awaited them amid the flames and cries of the lost? And most importantly, what would they uncover about the fire that sought to consume their very souls? The heat hit them like a wave as they stepped into the corridor. Flames danced along the walls, crackling and hissing as if eager to consume everything in their path. Sam squinted against the intensity, gripping the flashlight like a lifeline. The shadows were alive, swirling around them, pulling at the edges of their sanity. "Are you sure about this?" Mike shouted over the roar, his voice laced with doubt. "We can still turn back." "No." Sam replied, determination hardening his features. "We have to go forward. We made a promise." Jess, breathing heavily, glanced back at the darkened room they left behind. The echoes of the wailing voices still rang in her ears, each one a reminder of the tragedy they were about to unearth. "What if we're not ready for what we find?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ready or not, we have to face it," Sam said, adrenaline surging through him. They had come too far to back down now. With each step into the unknown, the flames flickered higher, as if protesting their presence. Suddenly, a scream shattered the air. It was a sound that sent shivers down their spines. Sam's heart raced even faster. It was a familiar cry, mixed with anguish and despair. "Did you hear that?" he gasped, eyes wide in alarm. "Yeah, and it came from there." Jess pointed ahead, where the flickering light grew more intense. Shadows twisted and curled like living beings, leading them deeper into the inferno. They pressed on, the ground beneath them uneven and treacherous. Suddenly, the walls seemed to close in, the flames growing impossibly brighter. In the intensity, Sam noticed markings on the walls, charred symbols that appeared to pulse with energy. These don't just look like burn marks," he said, his voice fighting to stay steady. They're a warning." "Warning for what?" Mike asked, his eyes darting around. He stepped closer to inspect, but Jess tugged his sleeve, fear etched in her face. "I don't think we should be here," she urged, her instincts screaming. Another wail echoed from somewhere beyond, sharper this time. It was a call for help. The sound gripped Sam's heart with icy fingers. "We can't turn back now," he insisted, glancing back at her with fierce resolve. "We have to find out what happened." As they ventured further, the shadow shapes began to coalesce into forms, their features obscured by smoke and flame. Some figures appeared sorrowful, others angrier, their eyes glinting like embers in the darkness. "We need to help them," Sam shouted, driven by an impulse he couldn't yet understand. But in response, a dark figure shot out of the flames, barreling straight towards them. It was no longer a mere shadow but a creature of rage and despair, its eyes burning like coals, mouth stretched open in a silent scream. "Run!" Mike yelled, panic setting in as the creature lunged. They barely dodged, the rush of air from its movement pushing them back like a wave crashing against the shore. Jess stumbled, hitting the ground hard, her flashlight flickering wildly. "Get up! We can't stop!" Sam shouted, urgency blending with fear. Jess's heart raced as she fought to rise, and in that frantic moment, she caught sight of something in the distance. A large wooden door, slightly ajar, glowing with a warm light that contrasted sharply with the chaotic inferno around them. "There!" she cried, "we can make it." They sprinted toward the door, every breath a struggle against the heat. The screams intensified, intertwining with the creature's growl, forcing Sam to push harder, knowing that safety was just a few feet away. But as they reached for the door, it abruptly slammed shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot in their ears. "No! Let us in!" Sam screamed, pounding on the door with fists that felt like lead. The creature loomed closer, letting out a chilling roar, the air thickening with heat and terror. Jess, trembling, looked back at Sam, realizing with dawning dread that they might not escape. As the flames closed in, a low whisper breached the roar of chaos. "Remember, the fire was just the beginning." Sam's heart sank. What more lay beyond this nightmarish doorway? What sacrifice awaited them if they found their way through? The heat grew unbearable, moments slipping away like sand through fingers, and the shadows began to close in again. Would they uncover the truth or burn for eternity? And as the grip of despair surrounded them, a final question echoed: could they face the darkness that threatened to consume them all? The door stood firm, unyielding against Sam's desperate pounding. The wood felt alive beneath his fists, pulsing with some hidden energy, but the creature was closer now, its heavy breath a suffocating cloud of heat. "Jess, come on!" Sam shouted, pulling her up with urgency. They needed to think and fast. "The symbols. Maybe we can do something. There has to be a way to stop that thing." But Jess could barely hear him over the roar of the fire and the creature's thrumming heartbeat. Fear clawed at her throat. What if it comes for us? What if? Look! Mike cried out, pointing at the symbols on the walls, which now flickered ominously in the fiery glow. What if the symbols are a way to fight it? They're all around us. As flames licked higher, the symbols pulsed with a vibrant light, shifting with each beat of the creature's rage. Sam squinted at them, recognizing the ancient designs. These were sigils of protection. Had they unknowingly stumbled upon some dark ritual site? "Focus!" he barked, his voice sharper than the crackle of flames. "We have to recreate the symbols. It's our only shot." They gathered at the nearest wall, the heat threatening to sear their skin. Sam pretended to draw the first symbol, tracing it in the air with a trembling hand, while the adrenaline rushed through him. Jess and Mike mirrored his movements, hands shaking but gaining strength from the camaraderie. If this was going to work, they needed to connect. They needed to harness the energy of the fire, of the burning spirits trapped in this place. "On three," Sam said, trying to maintain a steady voice. 1, 2, 3. They chanted the names of the symbols, a muffled mantra buried beneath the chaos. The flames around them hissed, as if responding. The creature inched closer, a wall of fury and despair compacting the air. Suddenly, the symbols erupted with a blinding light, a shockwave sending the creature staggering back. It howled, a sound that pierced through the roiling smoke, its eyes now wide in disbelief. "Keep going!" Jess shouted, fear igniting her resolve. "We can do this!" But as they repeated the symbols, something shifted. The ground trembled underfoot, causing them to stumble. An echo of the past resonated through the air, gritty whispers, cries for help mingling with the sounds of the flames. This wasn't just a battle, they were awakening something far deeper, something that had been sleeping in the ashes. "Sam!" Mike yelled, panic in his eyes. I don't think we control this anymore. It's without warning, the door behind them screeched open. A brilliant light poured forth, bathing the corridor in a soft glow, banishing the shadows for just a heartbeat. The creature hesitated, caught between its primal instincts and the unexpected light. It took a step back, but that proved to be its mistake. Go. Now. Sam roared, shoving Jess toward the door while Mike pulled his sleeve, urging him forward. But something compelled them to look back one last time. The creature was twisting in on itself, a whirl of black smoke and desperation, its screech merging with the cries of the anguished souls and the echoes of the past. It was unraveling, but was it truly defeated? They surged through the door, tumbling out into a corridor bathed in dawn, leaving the heat behind. Relief washed over them, but it was short-lived. A chill set deep in their bones as they turned to glance at the door, which slammed shut behind them, an ominous thud that echoed across the hall. What just happened back there? Mike gasped, chest heaving. Sam's heart raced, not just from the fear but from a lurking question that gnawed at him. What if we let something worse out? He murmured, unease creeping into his voice. As they stood in the dim glow of the early morning, the reality of what they had experienced settled like a thick fog. The door had closed, but they knew better than to believe that the terror was behind them. A chill ran down Sam's spine. Was it really over? Or had they just stepped into a new nightmare? The sound of distant sirens grew closer, blending with the shadows of the past. And an unsettling thought made its way into Sam's mind: what lay ahead, just waiting to emerge from the dark. The morning light didn't feel like a savior, instead, it painted the world in unsettling hues. Sam rubbed his arms, fighting off the chill that clung like a dying fog. He glanced at Jess, her face pale, eyes wide like someone who had just escaped a terrible dream. Mike stood rigid beside them, scanning the hallway as if he expected the creature to burst through the walls. What do we do now? Jess whispered, her voice barely carrying above the distant sirens. We need to find a way out of here, Sam replied, pushing down his own fear. But if that creature is only part of it, what are we dealing with? Mike turned sharply, his brow furrowed. Do you really think we unleashed something worse? Sam hesitated. There was a darkness lurking just beyond the edge of their understanding, one that snarled and clawed from the void. I don't know. But it's still out there. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from down the corridor, reverberating like thunder. The sound sent a fresh wave of adrenaline through them. Sam exchanged a quick look with Jess and Mike. Stay close. He ordered, inching forward, his body instinctively bracing for an unseen threat. They moved cautiously, the tile floor cold beneath their feet, sliding into the intimidating corridor that forked ahead. A flickering light danced down the left path while a heavy silence lay heavy on the right. The light called to them, mesmerizing in its glow. But something about it felt off, too bright in the stillness. Let's check the light, Mike said, his confidence wavering. Jess nodded, but the way her eyes darted around so nervous betrayed her. Every step felt like a betrayal of their last escape. The closer they got, the more the air sizzled, thickening with a tension that felt almost alive. As they turned the corner, the source of the light came into view. What the? Sam's heart plummeted. Before them spun a massive, iridescent orb embedded in the wall, pulsating with an unnatural rhythm. Familiar symbols twisted and writhed within, glowing ominously. It felt like this was what they had just encountered, a heartbeat echoing the creature's rage, alive and watching them. What is it? Jess whispered, her hand trembling against Sam's arm. I don't know, Sam breathed, a chill creeping back into his chest. But it doesn't look safe. The orb flickered, and the whispers from before coiled into the silence, rising like a tide. Words tangled together, fragmented cries mingling with desperate laughter. Shadows seemed to distance themselves from the orb, growing darker, more resentful. Turn back. A voice cried, urgent and raw. Sam's instinct told him to run, but his feet felt stuck in place. The light tugged at his core, both intoxicating and terrifying. He felt a pull deep inside, as if the orb could see into him, into the parts he tried to conceal. What if this is what we need? Mike suggested, stepping tentatively toward it. Don't, Sam warned. But it was too late. Mike was already reaching out a hand, those ambitious traits from their shared moments of bravery bubbling to the surface. Just before contact, the orb flashed, a blinding burst of light engulfing them. Screams echoed in the chaos, but the world twisted and shifted, making it impossible to know where the sound came from. A powerful wind whipped around them, pulling everything into an inescapable void. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the light vanished, leaving them gasping on cold tile in stark darkness. Are you okay? Sam's voice trembled as he reached out for Jess, who was curled on the ground, breathing heavily. I think so, she stammered, fragility threading her voice. Mike didn't answer. Panic surged through Sam as he turned to look for him, but the silence that slipped into their midst felt heavy, like impending tragedy looming just out of sight. Mike! Sam yelled. Mike! But only darkness listened, the orb still hovered in the shadows, a pulse stabilizing in the empty air, mocking them. Sam felt his chest tighten as uncertainty paralyzed his thoughts. What happened to Mike? And what did they unintentionally unleash? It dawned on him, perhaps the true horror was yet to come, lurking just around the corner, waiting for their next misstep. Fueled by fear and determination, he declared, we have to find him. Whatever we released, we need to face it. But deep down, he wondered if stepping into the unknown made them the true monsters. The air crackled with unspent energy as Sam pushed forward. What awaited them ahead would test not just their courage, but their very sanity. But there was no turning back now. They would confront whatever was lying in wait. Or die trying. What awaited them in that suffocating darkness? As the echoes of their frantic breaths faded, Sam and Jess stood together, weaving through the uncertainty that clung to them like shadows. The aura of the orb flickered ominously, casting erratic glimmers across their faces, and beneath it all lay an unsettling silence, a pregnant pause thick with a promise of dread. Where's Mike? Jess asked, her voice a fragile whisper caught in the web of dark energy surrounding them. I don't know. He was right here. Sam's heart raced with panic. The oppressive weight of isolation pressed down on them, creating a suffocating pressure that made it hard to breathe. Do you think he got pulled in? Jess's eyes were wide, filled with fear and dread. We need to find him. Just then, the orb pulsed again, and a gust of wind blew through the corridor, a chilling invitation that rattled them to the core. Without a word, they slowly moved toward the unfolding darkness, propelled by curiosity and adrenaline. With step after cautious step, the shadows began to elongate, clawing at their heels. Mike! Sam shouted again, his voice wavering with a mix of hope and despair. A moment of silence hung in the air, then a faint sound wafted back to them, familiar, sweet laughter that twisted into a whimper. Mike! Jess called more urgently, the knot of fear in her gut coiling tighter. But the laughter morphed into a piercing scream that shattered the quiet. Sam's chest tightened with cold dread. We have to hurry. Without hesitating, they plunged into the deeper darkness surrounding the orb, its light flickering behind them like a detached heartbeat. As they moved forward, the corridor widened, revealing a cavernous room alive with shadowy forms swirling in chaos. And at its center, they caught sight of Mike, eyes glazed and face contorted in fear. He was trapped in a snare of writhing shadows that pulled at him aggressively, as if desperate to consume him whole. Mike! Both of them screamed in unison, their voices a piercing cry against the dark. The shadows twisted, swirling around Mike like a cyclone of despair. Help! I can't hold on. He gasped, the edges of reality bending around him. Driven by an instinct stronger than fear, Sam darted forward, but the very ground beneath them trembled, shunting them back, as if time were bending. Jess seized Sam's arm, her face pale. We can't lose him. We have to break whatever it is that's holding him. The orb pulsated with increasing intensity, a throbbing heart of pulsing light and darkness. They had to act fast, or they would all be consumed. Sam remembered the symbols they had seen earlier, those protective sigils. Jess. The symbols. We need to recreate them. He pointed to the walls where the faintest traces of designs remained, left over from their earlier exploration. Yes. Jess shouted, running to the wall. Frantic and focused, they began tracing the sigils in the air with renewed urgency, painting their shattered hope against the oppressive gloom. With every movement of their hands, the light of the orb flickered, responding to their desperate incantations as they breathed life into the symbols. Please, come on. Sam urged, sweat beadings along his brow as they called forth the energy that might sever the bond holding Mike in torment. The shadows howled as they fought back, a tempest of anguished screams pelting them like rain. Yet they stood firm, their wills ignited by friendship and a shared determination. Together. Sam called, his voice barely rising above the cacophony. On 3. 1, 2, 3. They shouted, and in that moment, the symbols ignited. Light exploded outward, illuminating the room and momentarily banishing the shadows. Sam watched in awe as wisps of dark energy recoiled, recoiling in shock at the illumination. He clutched Jess's arm, their breaths united in frantic solidarity. A deafening roar filled the air, rising from the floor, a lamentation entwined with fury as the light from the orb surged in response, filling the space between them and Mike. Let him go. Jess implored, mind set firm but terrified. With one last push, the sigils burst into a radiant beacon, causing the shadows swirling around Mike to dissolve into smoke, hissing in defeat. No. The shadows screamed, tearing and folding into themselves until they vanished like echoes fading into memory. As the last remnants of the darkness dissolved, Mike stumbled free, collapsing to the ground with a gasp. What just happened? Are you okay? Jess knelt beside him, shaky fingers grasping his shoulders, desperate. Why, yeah, I think so, Mike breathed, looking up at the pulsating orb, now throbbing softly in the background, no longer a threat but an enigma wrapped in silence. But that was when the grounded quakes began anew, the world's axis spinning again. Not yet, Sam whispered, recognizing the ominous nature of that calm. There's still something left more we have to find. They backed away cautiously as the orb began to glow brighter, illuminating the walls itself, illuminating a tapestry of lost souls swirling within its core. What is this? Mike gasped, studying it in horror and fascination. It's the truth, Sam replied, too focused, feeling the pull of understanding wrap around his heart. What happened here? We need to uncover it. They huddled close, hearts pounding in unison as the orb drew them nearer, ready to witness the history that would haunt the theater forevermore. No matter where it leads us, Jess murmured, a tremor in her voice. We face it together. They nodded in agreement, a pact forged between fear and loyalty, staring into the unknown. Determined, ready to venture into the essence of darkness, and maybe, just maybe, unearth whatever tragedy had once gripped this theater so tightly. With a deep breath, they stepped forward, feeling the weight of eternity pressing on their shoulders. As the fabric of their reality warped, shadows lurked behind them, but the strength of their togetherness ignited an unbreakable bond, a truth that would echo through every movie ever shown, forever entwined with the secrets of the past. And as the orb enveloped them in light, their voices rose, a symphony of bravery echoing into the depths of the theater, ready to shine a light on the haunted stories that defied the passage of time. Now's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could reveal even more chilling secrets. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help unveil more mysteries. And don't forget to flood the comments with your reactions and theories about what just went down. Your thoughts matter. Instantly share this tale with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and be part of this wild ride. Don't wait even one more second. True fans know how important it is to support the channel through these actions.